No one at the private hospital in Doha noticed her at first, and that was exactly how Maria liked it. She arrived every day before sunrise, tying her hair into a neat bun while the city outside was still quiet, the skyscrapers glowing softly like they hadn't fully woken up yet. Maria Santos was a Filipino nurse in her early 30s, petite, calm, and almost invisible in a place where power announced itself loudly through long convoys of black SUVs, tailored thobes, and people who never waited in line. Maria didn't mind being invisible. In the Philippines, she had learned early that nurses weren't praised much, only noticed when something went wrong. And abroad, especially in the Middle East, she knew the rules. Do your job well, don't draw attention, and don't complain. What she didn't know was that her quiet presence would soon reach the highest levels of power in the country. The patient assigned to her that week wasn't listed under a name, just a code. VIP07. That alone meant something serious. In this hospital, VIP patients followed different rules, restricted access, special security, limited staff. Nurses were usually rotated quickly, to avoid familiarity. When Maria entered the room for the first time, she immediately sensed the tension. 2 guards stood outside. The air conditioning was colder than usual. Machines hummed steadily, expensive machines, the kind she had only seen in training videos. On the bed lay an elderly man with sharp eyes, even in illness. His breathing was shallow, his skin pale, but his posture straight, dignified, didn't match someone who was supposed to be weak. Later, another nurse whispered it to her. "That's the Emir." Maria froze for half a second. Then she nodded, adjusted the floor, and continued her checks. In her mind, he wasn't an Emir, he was a patient. That distinction would change everything. The rules for VIP patients were strict. Nurses were not supposed to talk unless spoken to. Procedures had to be approved by layers of administration. Family members could override medical advice. And above all, no nurse, especially a foreign one, was allowed to challenge instructions, even if they conflicted with best practices. Maria had seen the downside of that system before. Back home, she worked in overcrowded hospitals where nurses handled dozens of patients at once. In Qatar, the facilities were world-class, but hierarchy sometimes mattered more than health. On the second night of her shift, Maria noticed something off. The Emir's vitals were stable, but his discomfort was obvious. He shifted often, frowned slightly, his breathing uneven. The chart showed a medication schedule approved by senior doctors and advisors, but Maria knew something wasn't right. She had handled hundreds of elderly patients before. The signs were subtle, but clear. The medication dosage was safe on paper, but not ideal for someone of his age and condition. She hesitated. In her head echoed the warnings every Filipino nurse abroad knew too well. Don't question, don't stand out, don't risk your contract. Still, she remembered her nursing oath. She remembered her mother back in Laguna telling her, "Anak, trabajo lang yan. Pro consensia mo sa'yo yan." She adjusted his pillow gently and spoke softly, not expecting a reply. "You look uncomfortable, sir." To her surprise, the Emir opened his eyes. "Everyone looks at machines," he said quietly. "You look at me." Maria swallowed. "That's my job, sir." He studied her face for a moment. "You are not from here." "No, sir, I'm from the Philippines." He nodded slowly. "Filipinos. You take care of many of us." Something in his voice wasn't authority. It was tiredness. That night, Maria documented her observations carefully. She didn't accuse, she didn't challenge, she suggested. She wrote a note requesting a review of the medication schedule, citing patient comfort and age-related sensitivity. The request was denied within the hour. She expected that. But she didn't stop caring. Over the next days, Maria became known to the Emir not by her name, but by her presence. She adjusted his blankets without being asked. She explained procedures in simple language. She listened when he spoke, even when his stories drifted. She didn't treat him like royalty. She treated him like a human being who didn't want to be alone in a room full of power. One afternoon, she found him staring out the window. "Do you know," he said, "how many people decide things for me without asking how I feel?" Maria smiled gently. "Yes, sir. Patients feel that everywhere." He laughed a short, surprised laugh. "Even kings?" "Especially kings," she replied. That made him laugh longer. Meanwhile, Maria noticed something else. Other patients, non-VIPs, were waiting longer for procedures, for approvals, for attention. The hospital's rules favored rank over urgency. She saw Filipino workers, Indian laborers, African drivers treated differently, quietly, subtly. And it bothered her. One evening, the Emir experienced sudden discomfort. Nothing critical, but enough that Maria knew delaying care would make it worse. The protocol required approval. She didn't wait. She administered supportive care within her authority, adjusted positioning, monitored closely, and called for a doctor, not as a request, but as a necessity. Security questioned her. Administration frowned. But the Emir stabilized quickly. When the senior physician arrived and saw the improvement, there was silence. Later that night, Maria was called to a meeting. She expected a warning. Instead, she found the Emir sitting upright, alert, with hospital administrators standing awkwardly around him. "Is this the nurse?" he asked. "Yes, Your Highness," someone replied. He looked at her. "Why did you break the rules?" Maria took a deep breath. "Because the rules were slowing down care, sir." The room went still. She added carefully, with respect. The Emir leaned back, thoughtful. "And if I'd been harmed, I would accept responsibility," she said, honestly. That answer surprised him. "You were trained this way?" he asked. "Yes, sir, in the Philippines. We learn to make decisions because we don't always have resources. We rely on judgment." The administrator shifted uncomfortably. The Emir nodded slowly. "Then perhaps our rules need better judgment." The next day, something unprecedented happened. The hospital announced a review of its VIP protocols. Nurses were granted greater autonomy in urgent situations. Patient comfort assessments were added as mandatory considerations. Hierarchy was no longer allowed to delay immediate care. Quietly, without headlines, hospital rules changed. And it started with one Filipina nurse who refused to stop being a nurse just because the patient was powerful. Maria never asked for recognition, but word spread. Doctors began listening more closely to nurses. Filipino staff felt seen. Patients noticed faster response times. One afternoon, the Emir called Maria again. "You changed things," he said. "I didn't mean to," she replied. "That is often how real change begins," he said. Before his discharge, he handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "You reminded us that dignity in healthcare is not about status, but care." There was also a scholarship offer for Filipino nurses to receive advanced training in Qatar, with better protections and authority. Maria cried that night not because of pride, but because for the first time, her quiet work felt loud enough to matter. She went back to her routine the next day. Same buns, same early mornings, same gentle voice. Still invisible to most, but not to the system she helped change, and not to every patient who benefited from a rule rewritten by compassion instead of power. Because sometimes the most powerful thing in a hospital isn't a title. It's a nurse who refuses to stop caring.